Long, long time ago, in a kingdom nestled by a tranquil river, there ruled a king named Motular. King Motular ruled a peaceful and prosperous village. He had a son and was blessed with royal subjects. However, despite all that King Motular had, the king was not quite satisfied. He had an obsession that grew only more powerful as time passed. When he was still a child and a prince, his father told him a tale that was almost unbelievable. The king told Motular that he had once seen a mermaid in a river that was not so far from the village. The king told Motular that one time, he had secretly run away from the palace because his mother, the queen, had shouted at him. The king explained that he had wandered towards the lake and that was when he saw a beautiful mermaid inside the waters, staring at him. Motular's father explained that though he was unable to talk to the mermaid because the guards in the royal palace were able to quickly catch up with him and return him to the palace. The king shared this story with Motular as a way of sharing a father and son bond among themselves. However, after Motular heard the story, he became obsessed unlike his father. Another reason for this was because no one had claimed to see a mermaid, not even from any of the neighboring villages. Their stories were like a myth that was told to children as mere tales. Years passed and Motular's father died and Motular became the king of the village. He never once forgot the story his father told him. He then told the villagers and the fishermen in the village to storm the mystical river in search of a mermaid. The king commanded his fishermen to seek out these elusive creatures, promising riches beyond imagination. However, despite the king's promise, no one was able to catch a single mermaid. Days turned to weeks and weeks turned to months and hope waned until one fateful dawn when a fisherman's net ensnared a shimmering figure, the first mermaid seen in generations. Excitement filled the whole village and the king threw a very extravagant feast. It didn't take long. News about King Motular having caught a mermaid spread like wildfire. People who heard the tale began to tell their fellow villagers in other villages. People were in awe and shocked to discover that the mystical creature they had thought was a myth was actually real. With the discovery of the mermaids, the king's palace was overflowed with gold from neighboring kingdoms eager to possess such rare creatures. King Motular, being a greedy king, would sell the mermaid to the highest bidder, the king who could pay the most gold. The gold and riches made King Motular to be so happy. He then intensified the hunt for more mermaids. The fishermen in the village cast their nets wider, capturing more mermaids with each passing month. However, as the hunting of mermaids continued, some of the villagers began to notice that some bad things were happening in the village. Some of the plants and trees started to wither for no reason and fishes became scarce in the other rivers where the villagers fished for fish. It was almost as though nature was angry with them for disturbing the peace of the beautiful mermaids. As the river's once bountiful waters grew barren and silent, whispers of discontent spread among the villagers, but the allure of wealth blinded the king to their pleas. He continued to sell the enchanted beings, heedless of the toll it took on the river and its inhabitants. Unbeknownst to him, the mermaids' sorrowful songs lamented their captivity, their mournful melodies echoing through the depths. Amidst the clamor of greed and chaos, there lived a humble fisherman whose heart shimmered with kindness. His name was John. Despite the allure of riches the village was possessing, he could not bear to witness the suffering of the mermaids. Day after day, he pleaded with his fellow fishermen to halt their hunt, but his words fell upon deaf ears. One morning, as the world awoke to another day of turmoil, the compassionate fisherman ventured into the village river in search of fish. To his astonishment, he stumbled upon a wounded mermaid, her delicate form battered by the relentless pursuit of greed. Moved by compassion, he tended to her injuries with tender care. Soon the mermaid was fine, and then she jumped back into the water. John felt that the mermaid was afraid of him, so he decided to walk away. However, as he was going, the mermaid called out to him, "Please wait." The beautiful mermaid said. John stopped and then went back. "My name is Coral." The mermaid said to John. "I'm John." John said back to the mermaid, "Thank you for saving me, John," Coral said. However, she was still confused. "No need to thank me," John replied. Coral then told John that some fishermen were trying to catch her, but she managed to escape. However, she sustained some injuries, and that was how she ended up washed up on the river shore. "I'm very sorry," John said to Coral. "The king in my village has made everyone obsessed with looking for your kind. However, I'm different," John said back to Coral. "I can see that," Coral said. "Thank you for helping me once again. I will reward you by telling you a secret. This secret will be more valuable to you than silver or gold." John was a bit curious. He wondered what the mermaid would have to tell him that would be so invaluable. He was open to listening. "Please go ahead. Anything that can bring good to me, as long as it will not cause harm to anyone, I am ready to listen," John said to the mermaid. Coral then told John the secret. He told John that the queen of the mermaid kingdom has been aware of what was going on and how his village have been hunting the mermaids. She told him that in 2 days' time, the mermaid queen will use her powers to attack and destroy the village. Coral told John that he needed to have left the village by then, unless he too will be caught in the mermaid queen wrath. John thanked Coral for warning him. As John went home, he went to meet the village elder in the land. He explained to the village elder what had happened to him in the river where he had gone to fish. He explained to the village elder how he had met Coral, the mermaid, and the secret she had told him. The village elder thanked John for sharing the information with him. He then told him that he would do his best to talk to the king about the issue. In the meantime, John went about telling the villagers about what had happened to him in the river. However, despite how much he tried to sound convincing, most of the villagers laughed at him. John, however, did not stop. He believed that since the mermaids were mystical creatures, they must surely have a way to destroy or harm the village if they wanted to. The village elder spoke to the king about the incident that John had encountered. However, the king paid deaf ears and even told the villagers that he would double the reward of anyone who could bring him more mermaids. With this declaration, the village knew that all hope was lost. He went back to the village. He met with John and told him what happened. In the meantime, the villagers who were not in support of the mermaid hunt and were scared of the news that John had brought decided to leave the village and go and stay with their relatives in other villages. Finally, the day that Coral, the beautiful mermaid mentioned, finally arrived. It was a regular day like any other, but little did the villagers know that this day was going to be different. At the cool of the afternoon, the mermaid queen used her powers to increase the water that was in the river where she and all the mermaids creatures dwelled. The increase was so great that it overflowed and flooded right into the village. Since there was now water in the village, the mermaids then began to attack all the villagers and fishermen that had attacked and had been killing mermaids for several months. Some men tried to fight, but the waves of the water was too strong, and because it was the natural habitat of the mermaids were able to overpower the villagers. No one was spared from the attack. Even the king and his royal subjects in the palace who had joined the king in his evil were all caught up with by the roaring waters and the mermaids. When the evening came, the mermaid had succeeded in getting their revenge. The water began to dry up and everywhere was as quiet as a graveyard. The neighboring villages heard what had happened, and so no one dared to hunt mermaids anymore. The villagers had all learnt an important lesson that they would never forget in their lifetime.